Spain. I'm trying to practice that Lewis technique you described of preparing the car with a flat platform as much as possible before a corner in the iRacing sim. Could you please elaborate a bit more on the technique? Well, on the basis that Rob says none of the stuff he does can ever be reproduced on a simulator, I think I'd be crazy to go into too much advice or detail on that. And not being a sim driver myself, I just don't know how much feel you get from a sim in terms of feeling the dynamic load through your body, if you get what I mean. Because I understand that a sim in general is hand-eye, and there's sort of movement if you've got a really good one, but it's not feeling the surface of the road. So I don't think, sorry to be depressing, but I don't think you could reproduce that on a sim. Maybe wrong, but I mean, we're talking about if Carlos Sainz brakes for that corner Sochi, where he heavily crashed the Toro Rosso in his first year. I think it's towards the end of the lap, so I'm guessing it's like turn 13, 14, around there. They come through a very, very fast flat out left curve. It's virtually straight, but the road curves to the left. And then there's a very short braking area, and then it's a tight right-hander before they go into the more tight corners. And he lost it there because, just as he lost it in turn 9, 10 in Bahrain in practice or qualifying this year, he lost it because he braked really hard when the car still had load on it, and he just lost the rear as a result and crashed into the wall. And that is an example of a place where Max or Charles or Lewis, and probably George getting there, Lando I would say for sure, create a little bit of an area where the car can just sit flat and square before they really hard on the brakes. They can be trail braking at that point or just touching the brake pedal, but when they're applying hard brakes, the car for sure will be in a position where it can take it rather than with load in it. And that passes in a millisecond. And I'm not sure that is reproducible on a sim. I don't think it is, but maybe I'm wrong. But that is what you need to try and practice. Speaking of which, on my new car, Cupra, I've got a friction circle. Can't believe it. Brilliant. I drive around with it, watching that little ball doing what it does, trying to keep it smooth as I can. What will Carl Kemp think of that? Incredible that they've gone to the trouble of putting that in. Love it. How much of driver performance? Yeah, I did actually talk in one of our previous. I should answer the question. Not that anybody's asked it, but I should follow up. I was in a betwixt and between about what car. Dexter, stop that! No, he's eating the cat's food again because he's hungry. No, stop it, naughty. What to buy? What to have on the road here? Because I need a car for Dexter, golf clubs, Jack, and all points north. So. Not being an SUV guy, I eventually settled on a Cupra Estate, which I really love, actually. Amazing technology on it. I'm still only getting my head around half of it, but really good car. I love it. I've just been up and down to Madrid quite a lot, as you can imagine, from where I live, and just the roads here in Spain are just gorgeous, and the surroundings are beautiful, the weather's great, the traffic's light. I love motoring again. That's what Jim Clark said, apparently, according to Javi Kronbach, in '67 with his yellow Elan when he started driving it all over Europe to all the Grand Prix that year. Javi said, and I quote, Jimmy always said that yellow Elan helped him rediscover the joy of continental motoring. Nice, eh? So this question is from 9 Aaron. How much of driver performance today is attributed to the ability to predict and be in tune with how the car's behavior changes when making setting changes such as brake balance, migration, diff, engine, and countless other settings on the steering wheel? I'm interested in how this interacts with the more pure skills in Rob Wilson's domain, given the complexity of today's Formula One cars. Quite a complex question. Can I answer it in a relatively simple way, which is that there is an almost infinite amount of data and tooling on the cars now that the driver can use or rely on in order to get better, to be quicker, to do a better job. And I think there's too much. In the case of most drivers, they rely too much on data and too much on driver tools in the car. And quite often, an adjustment, for example, in brake balance will be because they're starting to lock the rears. But they may be starting to lock the rears because the driver's applying the brake pedal pressure a millisecond too suddenly compared with the teammate. And that means already they've changed the setup of the car unnecessarily. There's a lot of things, let me paraphrase, there are a lot of things on a current Grand Prix car that a driver can adjust on the steering wheel, managed by the pit wall, that he could also adjust with his own driving and manage with his own driving. And that's what Lewis and Max and Charles are all about. Keeping the base setup of the car untouched and trying to minimize the amount that they play around with that by constantly adjusting their inputs to what the car is doing next. Bear in mind, the car is different, not only lap to lap, but corner to corner. Everything is different. The driver never hits the brake pedal pressure exactly the same way in exactly the same place every lap. He never turns in or starts the initial steering movement at exactly the same place. It's always different. And the track surface is changing. The ambient is changing. The tire temperatures are changing. The weight of the car is changing. Everything is changing all the time. And so you can say, oh, it's great we've got all these tools. We'll keep adjusting the car so that everything stays the same. We'll adjust it as all the variables change. We'll keep the car the same by changing all the tools on the car. Too complicated. And that, I think, was the demise of Daniel Ricciardo. They started to force feed him with too much data and too much adjustability. And he stopped being just this racing driver that could feel the car and just adjust to what was going on around him. And part of that was sparked by not being as quick as Lando Norris, because Lando's actually more supple than Daniel in a number of key areas. And rather than work on those, they worked on all the data, comparing him with Lando, which is why he went downhill. And that's my answer to your question. Yeah, there's a million things, and there's a million more. There's all that data to look at. That's why Rob, you may think, is very simple in the way he approaches things, but he's correct to be very simple, because the solution actually is a simple solution. It is drive the race car. And a very good racing driver, a friend of mine, has a word he keeps in his head when he goes into practice and qualifying in the race, and it's KISS, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple. Stupid. He calls himself stupid quite a lot. And I think that's right. Keep it simple. All the great drivers kept it very simple. Very simple. Listen to Max talk about driving the race car and racing. He talks like a kid talking about a kart race. It's always, oh yeah, I wanted to go quicker. I wanted to do this. I wanted to brake. He's just a kid, and he keeps it very simple. The bare elements of driving are all that he's interested in. He's not interested in any of that other rubbish, any more than Lewis is, or Charles is, or Nigel Mansell was. Says here, who's this from? Khan F1. Peter, you were the first person to suggest Max was not a late breaker when all the pundits used to say the opposite. I've now noticed a lot of people are looking at how much time Max picks up at the exit as a result of his driving style. He's on the power very early. Was Nigel similar in this aspect, or was he a late breaker? No. Nigel was very like that. Always very, very stable entry, very short corners, and always thinking about the exit. Always. And I think people misunderstood Nigel in exactly the same way they misunderstood Max. It's because, well, I'm going to say it, because I think 90% of the people that profess to know what they're talking about actually don't watch what's going on the circuit. They only look at results on the TV screens, and they only look and listen to what the drivers are saying in interviews in ridiculous sound bites, and they never ever go and watch out on a corner of what actually is going on. And I think, most of Nigel Mansell's critics were critical of Nigel because he had a very hard handshake, because he had a very blunt Birmingham accent. He didn't take fools gladly. And he thought he was the best driver in the world long before he'd even sat in a Formula One car. And a lot of people thought, oh, well, he's rough and ready, and he's this and that, and he's aggressive, and he's brave, but he's not he's not net and center. And I think the same people thought that about Max early on, because Max was so quick, and because he was doing things with the car that a lot of other young rookies weren't. They just assumed that he was a maniac who kept braking late everywhere and crashing into cars, which is far from the case. And both of them have this beautiful, gentle touch. And in Nigel's case, it was visible on the golf course. Yeah, he could hit a one-wood a long way, but his real skill is around the green. Absolutely, not even on the putting green, around the green, in the grass, with the sand iron, just a very, very difficult downhill chip. That is Nigel at his very best, and that's why he was so good in the wet. He's got this beautiful touch. Same with Max. And I think this is a classic example of Formula One is a very difficult sport to observe and to understand for everybody, even those involved in it. And more so because everybody gravitates to the paddock area, the pit lane. They all try and do the same thing. Up in the media center, they're all locked into their websites and getting the bit of news out, and so-and-so stopped on the circuit, or he's just gone quicker. And nobody's out there actually watching the action, by which I mean the turn-in points, where they're getting the power on, how they're getting the power on, which bit of road they're using, who's getting in earlier than others, who's using more of the loaded rear coming out of corners. Nobody watches that. They all think it's boring, I guess. I don't know. But to me, that's what it's all about. And I think that's why so many people misunderstood Max's ability early on. Thanks. Great question.